Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today to mourn a great loss. The sanity of Danny dies a lot.
God damn it!
It was tragically lost during the Resident Evil 4 Remake Separate Ways challenge you are about to watch. A challenge so meticulous that even the slightest miscalculation results in failure and frustration. And after many hours and even more resets, oh, and a few crash outs.
No! I could cry.
The question you've been pondering has finally been answered. Yes, you can beat Resident Evil 4 Separate Ways with 100% accuracy, but at what cost? Now, there are 7 chapters in this DLC, each with their own unique challenges. And on that note, I regretfully decided to play the game on hardcore mode for some extra spice, and boy was it ever spicy. Our challenges in Chapter 1 are the Black Robe boss fight and the catapult section, so basically the whole chapter. The fight with the Black Robe went okay considering our arsenal in the beginning. The TMP is kind of risky for this challenge because if a single bullet misses it counts against our accuracy, so I opted to get really close to him and took a few hits in the process. I also wasn't sure if shooting a fake Black Robe would count against me, so I waited for her eyes to go red before trying to damage her. And I surprisingly had more resets during the catapult section when trying to shoot this explosive barrel, so moral of the story here is I'm really bad under pressure. But I managed to end Chapter 1 with only 3 resets and no deaths. Chapter 2's main difficulties are the second Black Robe boss fight, and again, the fact that I can't aim under pressure. I had a lot of resets in the beginning and a few deaths, but I managed to destroy all the blue medallions and decided to sell the Blacktail in preparation for Black Robe 2. And after many failed attempts, I reluctantly reloaded an old save to try and save some of my resources against the Ganados. So my new strat was to run past them and hope for the best, which worked, but I did take a few hits along the way. And coming into the boss fight for the second time, I decided to upgrade the sniper and sell a TMP instead. The sniper works really well against her if I actually manage to hit her. On that note, the second attempt took me a lot of resets, but I managed to close out the chapter with 36 resets and 7 deaths. Now, the biggest hurdles in Chapter 3 are the El Gigante fight, and the area with Dr. Salvador and one of the Bella sisters. Oh, and the fact that I shoot a gun like Helen Keller. After being caught by the big cheese in the beginning of the chapter, we sprint to our impending doom. I mean the factory. Silly me. I mean, it started off okay. This Ganana was nice enough to give us a neck massage, and then we find Luis's frequency and he told us to rendezvous with him. But on the way back we meet our chainsaw besties, and one was so kind as to give us a back scratch. But passing by them was actually pretty easy. All I did was loop around them and throw a flash to turn the scene valve. And after landing some sick headshots, we arrived to the real challenge of the chapter, El Gigante. The first stage is pretty simple. I just blasted him until he showed me his plaga. But only thing is, it was kinda small, so I had a hard time landing every single shot.
Ooh, that's kinda small.
But in this case, size didn't matter. I used the scope of my rifle to finish him off, and finish the chapter with... Oh my god, you've gotta be kidding me. So here we are back at the beginning, and I'm not gonna lie, I had no idea where I missed or even could have missed a shot, so I reloaded back to the factory and tested my luck there. This time around, I clutched up, made it back to Gigante, and took my time making sure to land as many shots on his little plaga as I could. And with 43 resets and 4 deaths, we finally close out Chapter 3 with 100% accuracy. Now Chapter 4 is an absolute nightmare. Bad joke, I'm sorry. But seriously, the knights are a huge pain in the ass during this chapter, and so is the maze with the red robe Gloria a las Plagas zealot guy. After escaping the massive drill, the second worst hour of my life began. The knights move in such an unpredictable way, and having to snipe them while moving like that is literally my worst nightmare. It took me forever to get into the room with the gold bottle, but my relief upon entering was instantly turned to regret because, oh my god. Having what feels like an infinite amount of knights spawn in and crossbow zealots pelting you from the back was torture. I had to reset over and over and over again, and after a while I felt like I was going insane. But then I got lucky and made it to the maze. The maze wasn't hard in theory, but it did take me a few attempts just to follow the red zealot and get his path down so I could shoot him before he started his chant. And how lovely was it that after killing him, I panicked up this ladder only to die seconds later. But a million attempts later, I succeeded and headed to the end of the chapter. But I had a bad feeling. After killing him, all that loot and treasure was just sitting there in the maze, almost like it was calling my name. I felt like Gollum, and the lure of the ring was too hard to resist. So, against my better judgment, I headed back.
Precious. Come.
During the looting, I had a few close calls, but surely didn't miss any shots, right? Well, there's 2 hours of my life I'll never get back. And the second time around, I had a feeling it was my greed that led to failure. So I loaded from there, praying that I didn't have to redo the night room. And as if I didn't learn my lesson the first time around, I looted the maze again. But this time, I was a lot more careful and finished the chapter with 64 resets and 5 deaths. Looking back now, Chapter 5 might just be the bane of my existence. It's one of the longest chapters, and there are a few challenges. The first challenge is the Novistadors, not because they're a hard enemy by any means, but they're so annoying to shoot underwater. The second is the Garrador room with the Zealots, and the third and most painful by far is the final fight against the Black Robe. The beginning section cost me a lot of resets because I was trying to kill the Novies with pistol only to save on rifle ammo, but I couldn't see them without the bioscope, so I caved out of pure frustration. With the bioscope, I got through on my first attempt and made my way to the Garrador. This room actually wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. I used the Garrador to help me kill most of the Zealots, and then we were left with a 1v1. And he did get me a few times, but I killed him with a crossbow blast to the back. And right after killing him, we're thrown into the worst few hours of my entire existence. I prepared like I was going into war by upgrading my rifle and buying the rocket launcher. My strategy here was to blast her with a crossbow and then switch to my sniper, but the only problem was I didn't have a ton of ammo or heals and had to finish the fight with a pistol. So anytime I would come close, I would either die or miss a single pistol shot and have to reset the entire fight. But I finally ended up beating her first phase and used my rocket launcher on her second phase, and she finally went down after nearly an hour. After making my way through the last of the Zealots, I let out a massive sigh of relief, because thank God I'll never have to do that again. Wait. No.
Oh, no, no.
After composing myself following my psychiatric break, I reloaded to the Black Robe boss fight and tried again and again and again. This time I focused on headshots, and if I even had the slightest feeling that I could have missed, I reset. After getting past her first phase with the accuracy of Agent 47 himself,
excellent work, 47.
I got as close to her as humanly possible to finish her off with my rocket launcher, which, as you can imagine, almost ended horribly. And after making our way through the Zealots once again, we finally closed out Chapter 5 with a staggering 127 resets and 5 deaths. Now, there aren't a ton of big challenges in Chapter 6, but there are a few annoying areas with a lot of enemies like the Wrecking Ball and Defensive Line. The regenerators can also be a massive pain if you're bad at landing shots, which you can just imagine I had a great time with. So we pretty much start out the chapter with the Wrecking Ball room, and it took me a few attempts before I realized I could just run right through and didn't have to kill all the enemies. Because whenever I tried, it never really seemed to go very well. And after getting through, we finally meet the regenerators, and I had a few resets here because I didn't want to waste a ton of rifle ammo if I missed their weak spots. On our way back to the merchant, we run into the Iron Maiden, and there was no way in hell I was gonna kill that thing. So after killing the regenerator in his way, I tanked some damage and ran past him, bringing us to the gondola section. Which, if you're a pro like me, should be really easy. After getting through the gondola, we're at the defensive line, and boy was it ever a great time. There are a ton of enemies here, and a lot of them turn into Plagas. But I had some help cleaning them up with the turret, and one of the brutes was so kind as to return the favor. After getting through the defensive line, I can finally breathe a sigh of relief, because we head into a combatless section, with the exception of this little guy, and obviously I shot him first try. And then we escape Ada Stalker and finish chapter 6 with 49 resets and 4 deaths. Which brings us to the last chapter, chapter 7. The challenges in chapter 7 are the Saddler fight, but even more so the final section on the way to the rocket launcher. In the beginning, we make our way through the last few waves of enemies, and at this point I'm not even trying to gas myself up here, but I'm getting pretty good at landing shots. And now we're coming to Saddler, the final boss. Everything I've done has led me to this moment. Would I be able to land all my shots? Or would I spend hours wanting to smash my head through a wall? Alright, here goes nothing. This final section here made me want to rip out every single one of my hairs individually, but it was the final section and I could not give up now. So, after shooting some novies and using my flash on the last few enemies, I finally handed Leon the rocket launcher to end Saddler for good this time. And we finished chapter 7 with 21 resets and 1 death, bringing our challenge to an end with a grand total of 342 resets and 26 deaths. So if you're a fan of Resident Evil 4 and feeling a bit psychotic and in the mood for some self-loathing, I really recommend you try this challenge out. Seriously though, it sucked. And thank you to everyone who made it this far in the video. If you had a good time, make sure you like and subscribe. And until the next one, see ya!